What is going on with Highguard? Worse than we knew. Welp, our money is gone. Uh-oh. Game stinky.
I think we all know it, but I may as well just say it. Highguard is a game living on borrowed time. And that's time that it earned because the leadership team fired most of the development team that built the damn game. And now the fear is that the game is in a death spiral, the type of which it won't be able to recover from. Because
is it finally dipping below 1,000 players? Because last time I checked, it was hovering at like 1,000 players, I believe. Let's check. High fart. Steam charts. Highguard. Ooh, 468 players. Jesus Christ. Mamma mia.
Whenever people see layoffs like this, they don't really feel like investing their time, their energy, and their money into a game that just may not be there. It only took 16 days after launch for the layoffs to happen, and since that happened, well, things have only got worse, at least for their PR, and now there's even a new Tencent-shaped question hanging.
Oh, Tencent's gonna acquire them like they did with Ubisoft when Ubisoft was dying?
Over everything in
I
this
can see
story.
That.
So we have a lot to talk about. 16 days after launch, Highguard developer Wildlight Entertainment began laying off staff. People posted on LinkedIn saying that, quote, most of the team was gone. Wildlight then confirmed it, stating that they decided to, quote, part ways with a number of our team members while keeping a core group of developers to continue innovating on and supporting the game. One of the people let go, a level designer called Alex Grainer, was a bit more blunt. He said, this one really stings. There was a lot of unreleased content that I and others had designed for Highguard. So what we see in—
But why did you have unreleased content when the base game sucked ass? That's what I will never understand. They even have people that beta tested the game other than Jeff Keighley, who glazed the fuck out of it. Was every single person just an unironic glazer?
That is, there is lots of content that exists on the servers that team has, and the skeleton crew that remains can probably ship that content. But obviously, there's concerns for the future. Concerns that only got bigger when the game's website went down. For many people, especially seeing even the site go down, it was a clear trend that Highguard was firmly on the way out and would be dead. Though it turns out it's not dead, at least in that way, because one of the remaining devs explained to their Discord that the website was being, quote, transferred and simplified, but that was low priority and the reputational
This is exactly what I would say to keep people calm and not freak out.
Damage of their site going down.
Guys, we're transferring the website.
A little bit rough. I mean, talk about someone being kicked whenever they're down. So the remaining staff then are simply going to be working on improving the game, shipping whatever content that they can, and that's actually why they just shipped another base, another gadget, and a little bit more importantly for the old bottom line, some new cosmetics and bundles. Though
guys, buy our cosmetics, please.
Don't really know if players will feel able to invest to buy those cosmetics and bundles, even if they like the game. And the only way that'll change is leadership from this team just coming out and saying, listen, this is the situation, this is how long we can run for, you know, all of those things, so that people don't feel like there's a massive air of uncertainty over even supporting the game. Which is a bad place to be if you're someone who likes that game and wants to support it.
It looks very generic, even if it kind of looks cool.
And obviously, there are loads of opinions flying around, from commenters to devs to publishers, just people trying to talk about this game and work out why it did not work. Was it too niche? Was it the art style? Was it the game?
If this game was released 10 years ago, it might have just been another, like, Apex Legends or something that people played on occasion. I don't think it could have ever competed with giants like Fortnite and shit.
Is it all just Jeff Keighley's master plan for chaos? Who knows? And the thing is, you look at some of the peaks, like launch day, and you wonder how a game could perform, air quotes, so well, and then need to lay off the majority of staff within a month. Maybe that's because launch day isn't everything. So Highguard had nearly 100,000 concurrents on Steam at launch, but we now know the success likely went further because according to Ampere data, and reported by the Game Business, 1.54 million people played the game across all platforms in the 2 days of January, putting it on par with existing games like Palworld, DayZ, and Red Dead Redemption 2.
Steam charts said it peaked at 15,000. What? What are we smoking? Excuse me?
And across the whole month, Circana ranked it in the top 10 for US Steam that week and the top 20 for console. For any new launch, especially in indie, that's
that's still an insane amount. I just don't believe it.
Incredible. And you may think, 100,000 concurrents, 1.54 million players, this doesn't...
Across all platforms? Like, on Steam, it peaked at 15K. Let's say you double that, you triple that, you quadruple that. Like, I don't know.
Compute. Well, remember what concurrency is. It's just concurrency. If you play the game for an hour or two in launch evening, then you're going to be one of that one...
Jeff is a marketer, hype things is exactly his job, but that's crazy to me. That just doesn't make any sense to me, because I feel like Steam is an enormous platform in and of itself. I usually try to give people benefit, or not people, but the games the benefit of the doubt that, okay, maybe if it's 100K on Steam, it's probably like 300K on Xbox and Sony, right? Like, I just don't believe 1 million people logged on to play this game. And even if they did, does that make it even worse that now there's only like, what, 500 people playing it on Steam? And it's been barely, like, what, a month?
0.54 million, even if you're not one of the current, well, concurrents, right? So a lot of people.
Yeah.
Then it hit 15,000 concurrents on Steam by week 2. And for many, that was a clear sign of failure. People bouncing off because of server issues, bugs, or the gameplay just not landing.
It was unplayable,
but
too.
here's the thing. That first week isn't really the moment to look at. Even though that first week had some little glimmers. You saw that if people played for more than 2 hours, the reviews were way, way more positive, which is to be expected, but I think what is interesting is the sheer quantity of those positive reviews. Yes, the Steam score was really bad, but the number of reviews in total was humongous, so even though positive was not as large a percentage as I'm sure the devs would have wanted, it was still quite a lot of people. But even with all that, it's Episode 2's launch on the 6th of February. That's the thing we need to talk about.
Episode 2? They're still churning out content for this game? Well, I guess they have to release it before it, like, you know, has its dying breath, I suppose.
It had maps, mounts, quality of life. A new hero that had some kind of neat movement, turns into a wolf, does wolfy things, but it peaked at 8,500 concurrents. That's a weaker show, but it's not an unhealthy player count for an indie multiplayer game. Because
why are we calling this indie?
Because when you're an indie, the revenue that you get, minus any platform fees, is yours. It doesn't go to a publisher, so you are operating...
I thought this was double A.
Fundamentally at a, well, higher degree of financial efficiency. So they don't need as many people to sustain themselves. And that's actually why concurrent player count is not the real story here. No, it isn't. Because regardless of numbers at launch, Wildlight leadership will have had targets for daily average players and spending that they would have expected to retain. Player count dropping is very much expected. But the problem is the trend line. Yes, in terms of player count.
I don't know why, but Steam Charts shows the peak player count at 15,000. But then when I look at SteamDB info, it's 100K. That's still, like, I just can't believe there's 1 million people that tried this game.
But perhaps far more so in the one thing that we don't have data for, and that is the literal amount of money. Although I think we can say that the lack of incoming funds absolutely was their big problem. Now let me explain.
A bunch of game devs
the
left.
First season pass was actually free. There were minimal cosmetics to purchase, so the game launched in a fairly unmonetized state. That's fine and expected. Make your launch as big as possible and give people not really a lot to scrutinize. The second season pass was not free. It was paid. It went live on February 6th, and 6 days after it went live, the layoffs started. You see, Episode 2 and the paid Battle Pass were Wildlight's first real chance to make money. Player counts are only half the story. You can't pay your devs with a player count. You need money. Now, maybe leadership's goals were absurd.
The game was free and the first battle pass was free and people still didn't want to play it. If I handed out a bunch of gifted subs right now to people, at least half of them would stick around and be like, oh yeah, I like this content. I don't have to watch ads. I get cute little emotes. I don't have to deal with these stupid Amazon ads and stuff that interrupt my broadcasting enjoyment, you know, all that shit. These people saw the game, were like, the game's free and I get all these cosmetics. I just don't even want to fucking try.
Expecting players to show up at the rates of a AAA shooter.
Dude.
Maybe, though, they would have been happy with the Season 2 numbers in terms of players.
Time.
But in a free-to-play game, player counts are only as good as the percentage of those people that actually convert into being payers. In less scrupulous games, that's why they hook you in with dark monetization patterns right off the bat. And it's why those dark monetization patterns tend to be related to player power or significant in-game friction. We see that all over the mobile game space. And even with that, it is often said that it's over 30 days, 35 days to convert someone.
Yeah, but mobile games take like about 30 to 40 minutes to get you hooked on the game, maybe even faster. And then they want you to spend money, and then they shove ads in your face. All the people I genuinely think that are writing all the reviews saying like, oh, well, the game's not that bad once you like fix it up and do some runarounds of, you know, performance issues that it has. And then you play it for like 2 hours and then it gets better. 2 hours is already way too fucking late.
From a player to a payer, and that is in a mobile game using all of the dark patterns. Obviously, for a game like this that isn't using those dark patterns, it's probably going to take longer. And that's why slashing your team
game
to
has to be really fun.
Only 6 days after most people have an opportunity to even spend money in your game shows that something's went really wrong. Now, obviously, that first free battle pass was an attempt to earn the good graces of gamers by delaying monetization, but it could have also meant that people had no buy-in to stay with the game. And we certainly know that conversion of players to payers just didn't really happen at a meaningful scale, and it seems that they ran out of runway. Now, runway is how much money a business has before it stops operating. Run out of runway and, you know, the plane crashes.
It's cooked.
Here's where it's interesting.
Steam charts only started tracking in January. Oh, that's why. Okay. Well, anyway, I still don't... Like, my statement still stands. I just can't believe that they had 1 million players trying it out. Was it... Well, it's a game for free, so I guess maybe people really saw a lot of hype behind it when they went to play it on console? What kind of game is this? Imagine Valorant, I guess like Overwatch Marvel Rivals meets Fortnite, where you have to go like mine stuff as you're playing, and it's also 3v3, I'm pretty sure. Also Apex, yeah, a little bit.
As highlighted by GameFile,
and a little bit of Rainbow Six, just a little bit.
Highguard, like most games released right now, was funded in the post-pandemic boom.
No, it's
you
not
see,
an
back
extraction.
then, money was cheap,
No.
interest rates were pretty much zero, and that meant that it was fairly easy for anyone with a whole bunch of access to capital to just take a punt on a bunch of developers. Now, Tencent was one of the groups doing this, and you'll have seen many other megacorps as well, like, say,
They changed to 5v5.
Now, Tencent led...
Yeah, post-launch, after people complained. That's why I don't think like that many people actually played the game before it launched.
The funding rounds for Wildlight when money was cheap and easy to offer. And it's reported that they led the funding rounds for Wildlight through their TIMI division. A TIMI, you may have seen their logo before. But what's important here is they don't actually own the studio, right? Mm-hmm. So this is still an independent studio in terms of its ownership structure, although...
So technically
yes,
indie,
some
I guess.
equity probably will have been given up. It's probably a situation like that. So Tencent then were seemingly one of the largest financial backers, but they don't have majority ownership of the company. That means they're not in control of the company.
New breed
so
of shooter. The amalgamation of every single existing shooter.
Minority shareholder, like they are with many other studios, like, say, Larian. Now, maybe Tencent's investment came with an option to convert into ownership if the company succeeded, but obviously it didn't. But that stuff was going on in 2022, back when the team was 28 people and, quote, fully funded. 2026 is a different story. Now, Tencent funded the team until launch. That seems like a pretty simple sentence, doesn't it? But there's actually a lot inside it. Because are they funding it to the intended launch of the game when it's in a perfect state and ready to go? Or is it that the development team received a certain amount of money and they've now just had to ship the...
Well, no, because they had to ship the game and now they're laying off people. They're not going to get that money back. It's over for them. Yeah, they basically gave them a cash injection and said, like, yeah, if this flops, it's over for you.
Game whenever the money is ran out. That's the thing, projects can be uncertain, things can be delayed, and quite often, if a game is failing at launch, it's often because it wasn't supposed to launch that way. It's rather that the budget ran out, and they basically had to ship whatever the hell they had. Highguard shipped.
It certainly feels like
was
that. And the fact that they didn't have any updates, because what happened is that they had the Game Awards reveal, and then for 3 weeks they had absolute radio silence, and they randomly dropped the game without, like, well, not randomly, but like they had a launch date, but like nobody really cared because it was like they were completely silent leading up to that point. I don't know. I think there's something fucking going on.
Probably going bust and having absolutely nothing to show for
what's
it.
up?
And that's the rough position that so many companies end up in. But of course, with the game being out, it would need to hit a certain revenue per month to actually pay the devs who are building it. They need to be bringing enough money in to actually start projecting their revenue, work out their cash flow, all the things that you need to do to support
Fortnite.
an ongoing live service. And
yeah, I want to play Fortnite, and it's a massive map, and also there's 3 people playing it.
Those things obviously didn't look good. That meant leadership were faced with a choice. They could keep everyone on.
I heard they planned a shadow drop. Well, that's basically what happened, because I feel like, again, people underestimated how much Jeff Keighley glazed the fucking game. Maybe they were like, no, it's okay, we'll just shadow drop the game and it would have died all the same. I genuinely think this is probably going to be like taught as a lesson with game developers in like 10 years or something. Hey guys, don't listen to the random guy who has, who's an entertainer glazing your game and saying that you need to advertise your game at the Gamer Awards.
Work for as long as money lasts. Maybe that could have been weeks. Who knows? Maybe they could have hoped to turn it around. The other option is to radically downsize the team, because in doing that, whatever money they've got and whatever money they bring in will go far, far longer. And obviously, they chose the latter. But that does have consequences. The studio may exist for longer, but a game performing layoffs this close to launch, yes, it hurts the devs who have got to keep delivering the game, but it also shakes the confidence of players who don't want to invest into something that's basically obviously unstable. Now, evidently, there's some interest and projected revenue, enough to try and keep things going. It could be that they're not getting a lot of money, but maybe they think it's enough to keep on whatever team they've got. We just don't know yet because we don't have the hard numbers.
Top 10 weekly active users on US Steam was top 20 on both US PlayStation and Xbox. I mean, I guess they can't lie about this stuff. I just... How many people were watching the Game Awards? How many people watched the Game Awards? 171 million. Maybe it isn't that far-fetched. Maybe it isn't that far-fetched. Game Awards breaks records again with 171 live views. 4 million concurrent viewers. I guess it's not that far-fetched for people to just even go and try a free game like that. Maybe I'm being a little bit too critical.
But here's the thing. This is
That's
just
weekly
one story.
though? No, yeah, absolutely. Like, it fell off a fucking cliff. I think they lost from 100K on Steam charts down to like 40K.
One example.
In less than a week.
An example of something that is going on absolutely everywhere in this industry. And a big reason is that the games market is completely different now to how it was whenever Highguard started development. The development of this game started in 2022. By launch, they had grown to about 100 developers. Now, even in an era where smaller teams are being pitched as the solution to everything, well, that's not a lot of people for a live service game. Because to keep up pace with a live service game, you just do need a shitload of people. If you've ever wondered why live service games seem really slow to change in big, meaningful ways, it's essentially that reason. But unlike the AAA live...
Oh, it's because they're usually owned by a massive corpo, or A, or B, because there's 9,000 people working on a video game like Diablo that's a live service game, and to turn around a ship like that, you need 10,000 fucking company emails and meetings in order to change one fucking button or one UI graphic or one little, you know, number on a class. World of Warcraft did just fine. I don't think a lot of people remember, but there used to be class tunings and updates like once every 2 weeks. Which is kind of low-key insane, but like smaller ones, sure. But like big ones, they happen pretty frequently.
Services they'd be competing against.
That's lucky
there's
if you
no publisher
fucking...
for Highguard. There's no other revenue stream to pick up
month.
the slack. And in 2026, clearly no funding partner to step in and take a punt on them. The new normal is fairly simple then. If a bet made in the post-pandemic era fails,
I wonder if there's anyone streaming Highguard on Twitch.
In the lead. Wow.
Oh, who's that? Being loud. Hold on. Sorry, babe. I'm looking at Highguard. Oh, mama. Oh. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, highest to lowest, 37. Highguard ranked number 1 Grandmaster. Number 1 Xbox player. I mean, you gotta get that bag. I'm not gonna shit on him. I just think it's funny. Grandmaster ranked. There's 138 people streaming it. That's crazy.
Studio just dies.
Yeah, man,
I mean, Highguard failing
King,
to
I
sell
believe in
passes
you.
and microtransactions already does basically mean that they're stuck, that they can't really make more money. All they can do is save money by cutting away their team and hoping they can make the line go up later. Now, you may be thinking, surely this wouldn't be a problem if the launch of your game correlated with you getting money, such as by charging for the game. You could look at Ark Raiders. That's a game that did that, launched as a paid product. That would have helped with the upfront money. It would have helped with buy-in because, funnily enough, people who have bought a game are people who are willing to hand over money. They'll actually convert better into ongoing payers. Well, as good as that may sound, they didn't have a big brand, they didn't have other revenue streams, they didn't have the big publisher backing that, say, Ark Raiders had with Nexon, and clearly, in terms of launch quality, they did not have what they would need to justify a price tag. So even if a price tag could have helped their immediate financial position, it wouldn't have worked. I think a big thing is, yes, if you put a price tag in your game and it launches with immediate, amazing product market fit, boom, you're minted. Helldivers, Ark Raiders. But if you launch with a price tag and you haven't achieved product market fit, you're just going...
Helldivers is still a fairly popular game, even after the whole Sony debacle, because it was just that fun of a game. Yeah, and the Reddit mods that freaked out and schizoed out because people are being too patriotic and quote-unquote being racist towards the bugs or some shit. Yeah, you're not allowed to have patriotism in your Helldivers game. But, like, my point is that people can overlook massive mistakes like that as long as the product is still really, really fun.
to be immediately executed. Take a look at Concord.
Sony almost killed it. Almost. They really did turn it around and we're like, uh-oh, we made a big doo-doo mistake.
It's a perfect example of that. Now, we see other games like, say, Spectre Divide that have tried to come into this shooter space as a free-to-play and have not worked. We fundamentally haven't seen big sustained successes here. And in the previous video we did in Highguard, we talked about a bunch of other shooters, some of which are really, really good.
Those animations look like ass.
And the people were completely unaware of. Now, when we take...
What is that?
And the people were completely unaware of.
Dude, it looks like they're taped on the back.
Now, when we
look, these people taped on the back, man.
Take a look at the games that are more successful, like Marvel Rivals or Arena Breakout Infinite. Slick title there, chaps. Well, those are succeeding off the backs of humongous investments at a scale designed to peel players away from whatever their game of choice is. Now, there are niche titles like Supervive or Mecha Break that have got great reviews, but even their player counts are dwindling. Like everything else about Highguard, there is no one solution to suggest here, though I do have a few. And as leadership cuts this team down, the real takeaway is that even compared to a decade ago, second chances do not exist. And it's all contributed to something I see in the comments, something that I feel myself. Where the fuck's all this money going? Like, what is actually the deal? Why does the games industry look like this these days? And you know what? I think I have a few answers. And I have to say thanks to Highguard because it helped me get to them. Okay, yeah. I've got a fundamental belief about games in this space.
No
I think
second
they are
chances.
played a bit more like sports. So a League of Legends player could be playing League for like 10 years. And it doesn't matter to them.
Supervive was on a timer from the start. I saw a lot of streamer friends that got sponsored by Supervive, and they all had the same kind of opinion. It's like, why would I play this if I could just play League of Legends? So they invested a lot of money into promoting the game, but at the end of the day, it didn't do anything. I honestly think Highguard is worse in that way because they didn't even pay for Jeff Keighley to promote the game. He just did it for the love of the game, right? So they had a lot of expectation that just fell off. So it's a clone? No, I wouldn't say it's a clone. It just didn't have anything exceptionally interesting about it. Yeah, it was competing in an already like oversaturated market, and MOBAs are becoming less popular too.
That there isn't a humongous, fundamentally crazy new amount of content or a new amazing campaign to get immersed in, because they're playing League like it's a sport. The same thing goes for Counter-Strike. Same thing went for Overwatch in some ways. It goes for other games like your Rainbow Six Sieges. Basically, those competitive kind of default multiplayer team shooter games. What I think has happened is our industry has looked at those games being successful, and it's tried to fight for those players, right? So say Ubisoft trying to fight Call of Duty, trying to fight them for their own players. Now, I understand doing that. And if you're a big AAA, you have all the money in the earth, maybe you can actually pull that off. But for everyone else, it does seem a bit silly. It's like, you know, a whole bunch of people play this ball game called football, which I know can mean several things depending on where you are in the world, but whatever. It's like seeing that and thinking, this is great market validation that people enjoy.
What is on their heads?
All-based, team-based sports. Okay, we're going to design and launch one with a humongous team, and we're going to peel away fans of football to our new game. If I put it like that, it would seem absolutely preposterous. Because these are games, but they're games that people play more like they're a sport, like they're that kind of default thing. So I think the game...
And that's what I hate about most games, is that they force it to be an esport. League of Legends was not an esport first. It took like a really, like, I think over a year for the game to be out for even the very first iteration, and not even like an official championship to even like exist. Because people really liked the game and they believed in it. But a lot of these corpos, they want to make a game centered around esports, and that's the core of the problem. Look at HOTS. HOTS is like a casual game that Blizzard like pumped full of money to like promote as an esport, and it didn't work out because it's not a fucking esport MOBA.
Industry has spent inordinate amounts of money basically just trying to do that, trying to dethrone
They did the same with
incumbents.
Overwatch, to be
but
honest,
when I look at the games industry over the scale of decades, I think what you see is that that's the wrong thing to do.
Yo,
you don't
thank you for the 10 gifted. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And launching something of the same genre. You don't dethrone Coca-Cola by having a slightly different formulation of Coca-Cola. No, you get some sort of new drink, cool thing that the market hasn't seen, that pulls people away from Coke because your offering is new, genuinely different. I think that is why so many of these games have failed. Spectre Divide.
Why would you get a Coca-Cola? People like it's a Pepsi competitor argument. It's like, why would I drink Pepsi when I have Coca-Cola? Because Pepsi tastes slightly different and I like the taste. That's why Pepsi still exists in the market.
Counter-Strike, but a bit different. Valorant. Counter-Strike, but a bit different. But with Riot money, Riot backing. The scale factors that an indie team like this one just obviously could not pull off. But even with that said, there is a new modern thing to think about. And that is how immediate success...
I also don't think that the fact that they were backing themselves on calling themselves like X Titanfall, X Naughty Dog developers, I kind of don't like calling them indies, because it's like you might not have the funding, you don't have the nepotism of like having billions of dollars at your disposal, but you're trying to promote it like it's going to be an answer or a sequel to it, or that it's going to be really good, riding on the reputation and the coattails of something that you made.
This is almost needed.
Because Titanfall was a really good game, so people automatically assume when Jeff Keighley was talking about how awesome this new game was coming out, X Titanfall game devs, that was his opening line. People are super psyched, and then when they saw the gameplay, they were like, what the fuck is this shit? This looks so generic. This is not Titanfall. And you already have that bitter taste in your mouth that you feel betrayed as a gamer, as a customer.
See, years ago, Fortnite and Rainbow Six Siege genuinely struggled with their launches, but they...
Whenever I see X game devs, I know it's going to be asked, to be honest. It depends. It really does, because sometimes like X devs can bring a lot to the table that are really good, but then the way they frame it, it's usually like, oh, it's an ex-community dev that didn't actually work on the game. That kind of shit.
Found their feet and
That's
they
how they
became
frame
industry giants. Basically, they had the...
Yeah, like Expedition 33 is a really good example. Expedition 33 didn't pride itself and like put at the forefront ex Ubisoft games. It's like people brought it up because it was a fact. These people used that in their advertising.
Funding they needed to grow through the rocky periods and to find product market fit whenever their game was there as a live thing. It literally took time.
Why would they want to say they're from Ubisoft? Because Ubisoft used to be a really great game developer. They really did. They made some really good games. Not like in the last 15 years, but yeah. I think every video game company kind of fell off post 2013. Like, yeah, like Blizzard, Ubisoft, anyone else in between.
But in this case, that's obviously not possible. And we can think why it isn't possible. There's a very obvious reason. They literally couldn't afford to do it. So we then need to ask ourselves, how could they have afforded to do it? And here's my contention. A bunch of developers with AAA skills, AAA, norms, because that is just where they worked, tried to dethrone AAA. Okay? Now they did that by making a game that looks and feels AAA. Like the fidelity of the models, even some of the art style things. Yeah, it's trying to take on AAA by looking and feeling like a AAA. But the problem is, that's really goddamn hard and expensive to do. All of those models, all of those skins, that takes a lot of money and a lot of time. And the higher your fidelity is, generally speaking, the harder it is to iterate and iterate and iterate. Which maybe means that the Highguard that we got is just a bit of a plan that they felt locked into. Now, in another world, where they chose an art style that wasn't as high fidelity, one where they didn't decide to be independently AAA, but rather decided to be an independent that can become AAA, maybe if they more fully embraced what being an independent studio means, especially financially, then they could have pulled it off.
There's so many games that don't have insane, amazing, hyper-realistic graphics that took off in the last, like... I would even argue, like, it has, like, almost like a nostalgic... Maybe, like, rose-tinted goggles is the wrong word, but, like, I don't want to see hyper-realism all the time. I don't know. I like having the feeling of, like, oh, maybe I'm playing a little bit of an older game. I don't know. Like, New Gen X, I mean, that's a Flash game. That's a staple for cartoonization. Hyper-realism, the most lazy way to do graphics now? Yeah, but Expedition 33 is made with Unreal Engine, and they have a nice art style. Some people were insulting it and saying it looks like slop, but I think it's consistent. It has its own style while it has hyper-realism as well.
But equally, maybe it wasn't possible because
it has style,
funding. A lot of venture capital money
I think
is
that's
going
the
into
point.
games in this period of time. Those types of VC bets are not designed for sustainable growth. They are designed for real big fucking humongous fast growth whenever the damn thing launches. And that would mean that they would probably only be able to get funding by saying, we're going to make a AAA looking game that can compete with AAAs, just that instead of all of the money going to our old friends at Electronic Arts, they'll be going to us and to you, Mr. Venture Backer. And by the way, as people who have ran big AAA live service games, here's how the finances of them work. Look at this, isn't it fantastic? Perhaps you can see how the funding model of games fundamentally defines what those games can be. And that perhaps is one of the reasons why this whole post-pandemic boom type of just wave of games has felt the way that it has. And now what will happen is those laid off devs will either decide to go back into AAA, where it'll be extremely hard to get a job, and where that will be getting a job.
Oh yeah, we saw that video, the background NPC video, where they went to the Gamescom, whatever the fuck it's called. I'm sorry, I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head. But it's where all the game devs talk in California. What is it, like 40% got laid off, and they're like completely fucked, and it's like... Yeah, they're gonna cut corners. People almost forget that all of these corporations don't give a fuck about you. They might give you benefits, they might give you like free breakfasts every time you hop into the office, but ultimately they don't give a fuck about you. You're nothing to them. And I saw that personally when I saw one of the really beloved Blizzard communication community I forget what it's called. I think he was a community manager. He got fired after being at the company for like 10 years, and they basically told him to go fuck himself. I forget what his name was. And he was like a really good communicator, and he was one of the only like people that would communicate openly with on Twitter without like, you know, throwing hands or like basically being unreasonable. And that was like back in like 2015 or 2016, and then communication since then has completely fallen off with Blizzard. Not Ghostcrawler. Ghostcrawler was the developer. No, I'm talking about the community manager. I forget his name, but it's not important. He was like really beloved, and a lot of people really liked him because he had such a good established relationship with the community and the players, and then Blizzard to them, and then they just fucking cut him. And I was like, oh. Like that to me, like I had no horse in the race, but like as a customer, I was like, wow, that guy got fired, like no one's safe.
You know, at the big behemoth that they wanted to leave.
It was really sad.
Not wanting to be under the yoke of one of those megacorps. And yes, it is the case that Wildlight was never some tiny little self-funded indie. Absolutely. But even though they'll have got funding from a bunch of those external partners, the company still is responsible for itself, right? It still is certainly a lot more independent than if you were working in a studio that was wholly owned by a big AAA publisher. So they'll either have to go back to that, or just, you know, go to a different industry, which probably won't be good.
Yeah, putting the fries in the bag industry.
Those people are certainly capable of fantastic things, just in another environment.
I'm sorry,
look at,
everybody's gotta do
Expedition
it.
33. For all the grief.
See, this is what I mean. Like, yeah, it is realism, quote unquote, slop. Look at this. Like, it is very hyper realistic, but it has a style.
That people give Ubisoft, well, Expedition 33 is a bunch of
awesome.
Ubisoft people and a bunch of
the
people
UI looks
for whom
clean.
it was their first job in the industry. And I think that
even the UI is stylized. Like, I don't know. This is very appealing to me as a person.
that shows that whenever the kind of working conditions, the scope, the budget, and all those things are well aligned for a
movement's
game,
crazy.
people really can cook
Jeff
and
Kaplan.
do their best
No,
work.
not Jeff Kaplan. I said community manager, not a game dev.
In this situation,
You saw
they
French
just weren't able to
impressionism?
cook
Yeah,
for
I guess
long
it is
enough
impressionism,
because
huh?
of the type of game they were trying
Impressionist.
to make. You know, let's just take on EA and all the live service things. Pretty hard, right? But you know what's also hard? Having general broad spectrum trust in the world and in things such as Discord. There's a reason why a lot of people aren't trusting Discord right now, and you can hear our report on that story in this video next.
Yep. Discord sucks. Yeah, they basically backpedaled on it and said, we're gonna re-look at it. Anyway, go check out Baldur. He's pretty cool. I've been watching for a long time. Cool little gaming news channel with little tidbits and stuff from insiders. Very cool. Very nice. Maybe I'll look him up. Twitter, community manager, let go. No, not Twitter. World of Warcraft, community manager, let go. Is it Ithensis? Oh, yeah, it was this guy. This guy got let go. And then they just hired him at League because he did such a good job. I liked this guy. He was a nice guy. He would always talk to the community or the customers, for lack of a better word. He was a cool guy, and they just fucking left him. They told him to go fuck himself.
Oh, yeah.